As Rebecca Black once said, it's time to get down on Friday, baby. It's Pride Sports World bringing you another edition of the crossover. We're heading to the finish, the wind down the NBA season. Every team has about 8 games left. If you're looking for consistent content on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter, Pride Sports World is a pretty good place to hang out. We go live about 5 or 6 days a week, bringing you the most up-to-date content. Also want to thank our friends over there at Rouge Bear for sponsoring us here at Pride Sports World. Let your presence be felt. Click the link to their website, our Facebook page, along with the NBA Supreme Facebook page as well. I'm David Huffman, of course, your host, and Mr. TJ Hopkins joining me on a kind of cold Friday at the end of March here, man. 44 degrees here where I am in south suburbs of Chicago. How are things over there where you are?
Not too bad. I mean, it could always be worse, but it's not terrible. It's fine.
That's like how a lot of my life is right now. It's it's not the worst thing ever, but it's fine.
It's fine.
And we were just talking off camera. I guess Triple H decided to hang up the boots. And he's a legend. He has nothing left to prove. I don't necessarily Triple H wrestling again. Is it sad that he can't wrestle anymore? Sure. But do I care? Not that
No, 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 not at all. Like I said before you came on here, dude hasn't had his last in ring match was what, Sting in
much. No, his
WrestleMania, which
last Ingrid match was that disaster in Saudi Arabia where they did the
oh the
Brothers
crown,
Destruction versus Degeneration X.
yeah, that was awful.
And then he had that match with Batista a few years ago at WrestleMania. And
I
then he had
mean,
that match in Survivor Series where him and Braun Strowman had a falling out. They never had a match after that. Like I don't know, that was weird. But yeah, enough about wrestling. Let's talk about a little bit of basketball, man. What's your gauge on what's been going on in the NBA as of like the last week or so before we move on to our main stories?
well, seeding is now starting to really uh take shape. Each game means that much more. I think in the West, only two seeds have been
Yeah,
what's
well, so
called
far only Memphis and Phoenix have clinched playoff spots.
yeah, with the
Phoenix has clinched the best record in the league already.
so yeah they are the number one overall seed. So if the Phoenix Suns make the NBA Finals, they get home court. Shout out to Memphis for being great. Like they are 15-2 without John Morant, and Taylor Jenkins is really saying like, "Hey, I'm the coach of the year,"
Yeah,
right?
for,
Like,
he for sure
hey,
should be
what?
in that conversation for damn sure. If he's
What?
not already, I'm sure he is in some sort of conversation.
Oh, he 100% is, but it's kind of hard to top Monty Williams when he's 60-14.
Yeah, but everybody expected Phoenix to be good. Like the fact that like nobody thought Memphis would be the number two
Okay,
seed in the Western Conference. Like
it's one no like it's one thing to expect the team to be good, but we always see that one team that makes the finals, they lose the finals, and there's always some kind of drop off.
yeah, I guess I don't disagree with you. Let's move on to our main stories. Our first main story is Kyrie Irving back in New York City. New York City Mayor Eric Adams listed the mandate that kept Kyrie Irving off the floor for home games. Something to do with entertainers and being allowed in the building, in their own. So Kyrie eligible to return Sunday against the Charlotte Hornets at Barclays Center. What are your thoughts on this? Finally, what was seemed like inevitable. Do you think it sets a bad standard potentially? And what are the Brooklyn Nets now that they have their full arsenal of weapons outside of the Ben Simmons situation we'll talk about in a bit?
Well, the one thing that Brooklyn has to worry about now is on court chemistry not between KD and Kyrie, but between Kyrie and everybody else because he's only played like I don't think he's played any games with all of them, and he's only played like 20 some games himself.
I think with him and Kevin Durant have only played like 3 games together. That
And what was your first the first part of that question?
do you think it just sets a bad precedent, a bad standard? Like because like everybody else on the team, kind of bent at the knee is I guess that's kind of like a bad turn of phrase, but that's exactly what happened. And Kyrie was like, "No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it," and just kind of he won, like for all sense and purposes. won this conversation. He didn't want to
I
get
mean,
the vaccine. He didn't get the vaccine. New York, the mayor of New York finally buckled with the mandate.
I don't think it's set. I think the mayor looks worse in this situation because I don't, like his mandate started to like not make sense. So you lift the mandate, but he still couldn't get in the building. Then you lift a different mandate, which allowed him in the building, but he still couldn't play. And he was called out multiple times by different people, Kevin Durant included. And every time he was called out, it's almost like Eric Adams was like, you know what? All right, watch this. Like I'm gonna stick it to them every chance I get.
I
And
think he wanted to make himself more part of the story than he actually was. Like he wanted to be part of the continuing narrative around this Brooklyn Nets team. Like, hey, I'm controlling their destiny. I'm the mayor, and I control what this mandate's going to be. But the numbers are all trending down. There was no reason to keep this in place any longer. Like
like the
in
minute,
Chicago, everything's been lifted in Chicago. The United Center, you no longer need to have vaccine in order to go to
mhm.
Bulls games anymore. So yeah, this was coming.
like
It's damn time.
the minute he said that we want numbers, I want the numbers to get down to a certain number. It's like you're losing the people because you numbers are going down just because they aren't where you want them to be. That means you get to. That does not mean you get to like punish those because there are unvaccinated players on the Mets and the Yankees, right? Like opening day is, although it's delayed, opening day is right around the corner. So can you imagine if you're a Mets or a Yankee fan and one of those key guys aren't vaccinated, they can't play because of this. Now, granted, baseball is, I guess you get more of a leeway because that's 162 games
True.
versus 82, but it's still annoying nonetheless. I don't. I'm
And
not trying to.
I didn't think any politician talks about they want the numbers to be at a certain point. All of that is just so arbitrary. Like they're just setting like kind of fake numbers. Like there's like, hey, we gotta hit this threshold, but nobody knows what any of that. Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Hey, we gotta hit this threshold. Like, what does that mean exactly? Like, what does that threshold mean? Like they all of them are just kind of creating numbers, kind of out of nowhere, like materializing them out of thin air. Every politician
like
has done this. Like
what I'm
JB
what I'm
Pritzker is
really.
doing the same thing in
Oh
Chicago, like
yeah, yeah,
or in
absolutely,
Illinois.
absolutely. And obviously, I'm glad Kyrie's back for a time. I'm also glad that Stephen A. Smith can shut the hell up about Kyrie not being back, potentially costing the Brooklyn Nets the championship. I'm happy about you know everybody else that was complaining about this. Right wingers, because the mandate went against your ideology. You do not get to champion Kyrie Irving for this because not too long ago he was a part of the group that you told to shut up and dribble back in the bubble when they threatened to leave. So you can't pick and choose when to support players and stuff like that when they speak out on social impacts, right? Because no, but I'm not. We are not gonna. We don't forget what you said. Literally 2 years ago, you were telling these guys to shut up and dribble and play basketball when the stuff in Milwaukee, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, was going down. Right? You told these same dudes who spoke out against the vaccine to shut up and dribble. Now that they speak on something that you believe in, now you want to support them. No, that's not how that works. You
Well,
support them all the time
I
or
think
none
that
at all.
unfortunately that happens with almost every political issue because nothing anymore like there's no gray area anymore. Either you're on one side or the other. That's just kind of the way American politics has become, especially.
Like if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, like obviously, it's not just Kyrie though. Like I need Seth back. I need Dragic back. Even if we'll get to this, even if Ben don't come back, I know I have all of those guys, and I should be fine. Like I really should be fine if I'm the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I think if you're the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, you've basically treaded water this entire season. You're the eighth seed right now. It's seeming like that's probably going to be your final destination. I don't think they'll be good enough to catch Toronto, and unless something catastrophic happens with Cleveland, which is kind of happening anyways. I don't see them catching them either. Uh, yeah, this is the Brooklyn Nets team. When you look at their depth, I mean, even if Ben Simmons never returns, which is seeming very much in the air right now. I mean, Kyrie Irving, Seth Curry, Bruce Brown, Kevin Durant, Andre Drummond team is good enough to win it all. They still have
Hmm.
LaMarcus Aldridge on his team, third right now.
I forgot. I forgot
I
about
actually
him.
don't. I don't even actually see them on their active roster.
Who, Aldrich?
Yeah,
No,
no,
he's
he's still
still
there.
there.
He's there. He's not in their depth chart right now. He must have got hurt and not playing right now.
He is. Well, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I
he
mean,
is
Cam
hurt.
Thomas has been good. Patty Mills has been good. James Johnson has been, James Johnson. Nicholas Claxton pretty solid as a backup five. Like this is a team that's deep enough even without. We'll get to Ben Simmons in a few minutes, but like Brooklyn's got to feel really good now that they'll have the full arsenal left. I still don't think San Francisco that Landais has been lifted yet. So the only place they can't play now, as of right now, is San Francisco.
And
So,
Canada.
in Canada, obviously.
But that's a whole different country, so
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
gonna tell Canada how to run Canada.
Let Canada do Canada. No, that's what they're doing.
So I mean, like everybody on the flip side, everybody's talking about it's going to be scary hours in Brooklyn because these guys, like he's back, like he's back full time, and we all but studied like right, like especially me. I'm like the city of Brooklyn, the state of New York, they're not going to turn down no money. They're not going to turn down any kind of money where it like any kind of revenue where it's beneficial to them. Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn being in the playoffs, that means that equals money, right?
Right, especially in a
It's
city that was basically rocked by COVID. We had the highest numbers of cases, you know, basically in the law. Basically, yeah, they had the highest number of cases there, and they shut down that city for a long, long time. And those bars and those restaurants need this
that,
revenue from a
and it
Brooklyn Nets playoff run.
and if it make money, it makes sense, which is why that mandate that which why that which why that other mandate that kept them out this long made absolutely no sense. Like if this whole situation was just so mishandled, it's ridiculous. All Eric Adams had to do was go to these athletes who are not vaccinated in the state. I'm not telling him like mayors across the country how to do this, but this is strictly for him, right? Because he's the only one that had to he's one of the few that had to deal with this. If you are not, you don't want the vaccine, all right, cool, but you will be subjugated to weekly testing. That's it. That's all. And for Kyrie Irving being in the NBA, you're gonna have multiple home games throughout the week. That is fine, right? You go to Florida, that's cool. They didn't test anyway. You go to Texas, you can play in Texas. They didn't test anyway. Fine, cool, fine and dandy. But in order to play in New York in the Barclays, you would have to be subjugated to weekly testing. If you get obviously you test negative, you play, test positive, you gotta go home. It wasn't that hard. They made this a lot harder than it had to be. And
100%. 100%.
obviously, Kyrie Irving didn't help because everybody else on the team got vaccinated, and KD decided to not get vaccinated, which I see why that can rub people on the outside the wrong way, right? You're a team. You're supposed to sacrifice for the greater good of the team, right? Not for the greater good of Kyrie, but for the greater good of the team. But he didn't want to. And shout out to the rest of the team for having this back through all of this because they easily could have said F Kyrie and get him out of here,
Let me ask you
but they
something.
didn't do that. Yeah,
If this happens 2 months ago, do you think that James Harden gets traded?
no,
No.
I don't think so.
I actually agree with you on that. I think that Kyrie Irving was when it comes to Harden. Um, I think his unwilling, like the Kyrie Irving situation, was something was one of those final strokes for James Harden. And this guy's like barely around, like to be a team, like he's not really a part of this right now.
Because it's not like it was weird. Like he could practice with the team, but he couldn't go to the games and play with them.
Yeah.
So you remember that one report, that one rumor that came out that Kyrie and James was going at it in practice, and Kyrie was busting his ass in practice and whatnot.
That's not a rumor. That's real. That happened. I
And
have an insight.
and so maybe like I don't know, like they never really got into the black and white of why James Harden wanted out, but everybody's free to make the rumors that they want. It could be he was tired of Kyrie with the whole vaccine thing. It could be that practice rumor, right? It literally could be that.
I think it was a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff. I think that practice rumors, that's not a rumor. That's real. That happened. It absolutely happened. I work with a guy who's he grew up
Oh
with
yeah,
Kyrie's dad.
you told me
Yeah.
that. You did tell me that.
Yeah, like that happened. For real. Like it happened. But yeah, I mean, if you're
But
Brooklyn, you got to be really happy. You can have Kyrie back for your entire playoff run. This is a team that's poised to go to the finals. Like this is straight up
and
power. Like as long as they can get this
these
play in
next and these next 9, 10, 11 games for them are crucial. So you got to build 9, 10 games, 9, 10, 11 games worth of chemistry before you make try to make a playoff push.
And I
And
mean, get Ben Simmons back at some point. Now, we'll get to Ben Simmons here. But let's
yeah,
swing into our next topic. This is actually the surging Celtics. They were winners of 24 of 27 games. They're currently only a game and a half back of the Miami Heat for first place in the Eastern Conference. We're not even that long ago that we're talking about the Celtics struggling to stay above 500, and they were in the play-in tournament. They're current winners of 5 straight by double digits. 4 of those 5 games have come by 20 points or more. Are they a legitimate threat? And there's been some buzz with Marcus Smart potentially being Defensive Player of the Year. Thoughts?
my thoughts. Not that long ago, the Celtics were they were. We were talking about blowing it up, right? After that collapse against the Bulls, right? Marcus Smart made the comments that he made, and Jaylen Brown and both Jaylen Brown and Tatum didn't talk to the media after that loss. It comes back down to what I always say: somebody has to give a damn. Somebody has to care. Somebody has to look in the mirror and do their own soul searching. Right? Let's not forget a bunch of the dudes on this team are what I call AAU babies. Right? Tatum, Brown, hell, even Marcus Smart, they are AAU babies. They are so used to getting their hand held through everything that even if they do something wrong, oh, it's not your fault. It's da 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 da. It's a like no, right? Soul search, right? Accountability. That's what it is, right? Ime Udoka has literally gone from damn, did Boston make the right choice to hey, we have a legitimate Coach of the Year candidate.
True, true. I mean, Jason Tatum right now is averaging so since January 23rd, when this winning streak, since they started on this tear, he's averaging 29 points a game. Since the start of March, he's averaging 34 points a game since the start of March. Like the dude has been, Boston's been awesome. Like their defense has been incredible, and I honestly think that this Marcus Smart conversation about Defensive Player of the Year, I think this might have some merit to it. Like, because every year it's gone to like forwards and big men who block the most shots, but like I would love to see it go to a guy who's like, the anchor on defense, guards the best player every single night. Their defense is the reason that this team has turned it around. Like, I mean, sure, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have been excellent during this stretch, but they have locked in on. They are the number 1 defensive team in the conference.
Man, that don't surprise me at all. Like it's like they gritty, they scrappy, they don't play around no more. Like once they get you down, they make sure they keep you down. Right? It's a beautiful thing to watch. It's something that honestly that's been expected. It's been expected of them for a while now. Like when you were as young as those dudes were, and you were a propeller of a team that went to an Eastern Conference that has gone to several
Yeah,
Eastern
for three in a
Conference
row.
finals.
3 in a row, they just couldn't get over the hump. Raptors won, the LeBron season. I can't remember somebody else. Somebody else they lost to. Miami, the Heat. Yeah, the Heat.
Yeah,
First
yeah. So like when you're that young, right, and you just can't get over the hump, that's when a lot of people start to question, and start to plateau you as a team, right? Like you're only so good, you're gonna get so far, and then that's your cutoff, right? When you're Jason Tatum and you reach the the Eastern Conference Final in like your first or second year in the league, which is
I think it might
Brown's,
have been his first.
might have been his first year in the league, which would have been Brown's second year in
Second,
the league.
because they made it that year that Gordon Hayward broke his ankle on the first play.
Yeah, which was Kyrie Irving's first year in Boston.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, you're first off, you're a Boston Celtic. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that pressure right there, right? You're a Boston Celtic. Like everybody talks about being a Laker. Yeah, be a Celtic, right? Like they got 17 for a reason too, right? Be a Celtic. Play in Boston.
I mean, yeah,
Like
Larry Bird. I mean, the list of legends that played for the Boston Celtics goes
like
on and on and on.
like you want to like
It's a
everybody
who's
talk about
who.
the right. Everybody talk about the Lakers. You go to the Staples Center and I'm still calling it the Staples Center. I'm not calling it where the hell it's called now.
Crypto.com center.
Like you look up and you see the Raptors and you see the names and the banners. Go to Boston. What you gonna see when you go to Boston? You just said it. Everybody who was everybody played for the Boston
I mean,
Celtics
they arguably have one. I mean, Bill Russell is probably the greatest defensive player of all time, if not the
all
greatest
time.
winner of all time.
So it's
I mean,
like
the MVP,
if
the MVP, the Finals MVP trophy is named after him, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So
So
you're the Boston Celtics. You haven't been to the finals in what?
uh,
A decade? No, not a decade.
at least a decade. I mean, it might have been like '09, last time they made the finals. So it was before LeBron's run. So
No,
before he joined the
yeah.
Heat.
So it was because it was them,
It's been like
Orlando.
11 years since they made the finals.
It was them, Orlando, them again, because they beat the Lakers. Lakers beat Orlando, and then they meet up that third time. So yeah, which was Kobe's. That was his fifth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You ain't been to the finals in like a decade.
2008, I believe.
You ain't been to the finals in forever. Um, yeah, Marcus Smart getting DPOY consideration. You already know how I feel about that. Like, a big man getting it just because he can block a bunch of shots or alter a bunch of shots. That's not okay. That's just one aspect
2010, sorry.
of playing
2010.
defense.
Their last ring came to us.
Yeah, the last ring came in 2008. Their last finals appearance was 2010. 12 years, right? It's it's a good thing to see. Like you can't sit here and tell me that those Celtics fans, like you talk about like Celtic pride, like
It's one of the
it's a
more
thing.
prideful fan bases in the league. And I
It's a
actually think Marcus Smart does have a legit shot at winning Defensive Player of the Year. The way he's been their best defensive player, and the way that the Celtics turned this around using the defensive side of the basketball, I think he's got a shot at it.
now
Because
don't get
nobody else. I mean, outside of Jaren Jackson Jr., who's blocked more shots than anybody in the NBA, who's been awesome this season, who's not being talked about at all about any of like when it comes to Most Improved Award or when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year award. Like Jaren Jackson Jr.'s name's flying way under the radar, which shouldn't be the case. Um, and the
and
NBA is just better when Boston. That's just straight up fact. Like when the Boston Celtics, when the Lakers are good, when the Knicks are good, when the Bulls are good, the NBA is just better.
and they
Sixers.
and it's it's their ability to find, and it's something I said that they had to do a long time ago, right? You got this cachet of young players, right? You got to see what you got in them, right? Like it's like it has to be a load off of Udoka's shoulders that he knows that he can throw Peyton Pritchard in the game, and Peyton Pritchard's gonna be fine. He's
He's been
gonna be
better than
fine.
fine. I mean, this has been awesome, especially on the defensive side of the basketball. I mean, Robert Williams has been
Exactly.
a straight up steal wherever when they drafted him. The dude's been awesome. Like he's been a double double.
Now you
Bringing
still
back
got
Al Horford for that locker room presence, I think is a good move as well. Given how
now,
Kemba Walker's worked out everywhere he went since. So yeah.
now you still got some question marks about some of those young dudes that eventually you gonna have to make a decision on. Like Aaron Neesmith, you brought him in to be a sharpshooter. He really can't find the court. Like really can't find minutes on the court.
He doesn't do
You
anything
got
else besides basketball. He's a liability on the side of the ball. You're a liability on the defensive side of the ball. You're not hitting trees. Not gonna.
is Romeo Langford still there? Or did
No, he
they
was part
trade
of
him away?
the Jared White trade, who's been awesome.
Oh yeah, and then you make acquisitions like that. So yeah, it's that's what I'm talking about. Like you either play these young dudes and see what you got because practice is one thing, right?
I wouldn't say Jared White's awesome. He's kind of meh. But
Like, but it's also like the changing of the setting, like right. He was asked to do way more in San Antonio than he's
oh yeah,
asked
without a
to
doubt. I
do
mean,
in
he's played
Boston.
18 games. He's averaging 10 points. He's been fine, but
So he's
his
like
his,
those
his
10,
percentage is starting. Like he's
like
shooting at
those
like
10.
38% from the field. He's shooting it at like 20% from 3 points.
Okay, but those 10, 12 points that he's giving Boston, like that's at this stage, like, hey bro, all we asking you to do is come in, play defense, and spell for one of the big two. You gonna spell for Tatum, you gonna spell for Brown.
Well,
One of them
he's
two.
also pitching in 6 assists a game. So I mean, that's not nothing.
And you gonna facilitate, right? And you gonna facilitate the offense. Like, yeah, that is huge. That is
Yeah,
huge.
I agree with you on that. But
They
yeah,
are
Boston.
legitimate.
I
They
think
are
Boston's
legitimate threats,
legitimate.
though.
I think they're legitimate, right? I wouldn't want to play if I'm the Bulls. I would either want to find a way. I would either hope that Boston climbs in the standings a little bit higher, or we fall because I don't want to see Boston.
I mean, like
I just
the only thing that you really gotta ask or keep in the back of your mind is that middle part where you said not that long ago the Celtics were struggling to stay above 500 and in the play-in tournament. You look at that, and then you look at now, and then if you don't do what I did at the beginning of this, is you got to ask what the hell, like where did this come from? You still have to ask that question.
I mean, it's still like the same conversation we had with the Miami Dolphins last season. Like
Yeah,
they lose one. They start the season 1-8. All of a sudden they get hot and they win 8 games in a row. Like where was this all season?
like the trade deadline, like you didn't make that many changes. Like you traded Derek White, you traded for Derek White, and that was pretty much it. Like everything other than that, you have the same roster. So what the hell? What's the problem?
Moving on to our final main topic here, we got some on the men. So we got some players that are coming back from injury potentially. Which do you think on the players on this list is most important to their overall team success and as they push towards the playoffs? So we got Anthony Davis looking like he could return sometime in April. Lonzo Ball, no timetable whatsoever. Apparently his rehab is not going particularly well off that knee injury. Ben Simmons suffered a sports hernia while recovering from while getting ramped up to play again in the NBA. He has no timetable for his current return. Jared Allen could return in April. Steph Curry returning basically a week and a half. Brandon Ingram is soon. Zion Williamson is no timetable, but everyone wants to make a big hoopla about that video he posted of him making that dunk. Um, for whatever that is. I had heard that Zion Williamson shut down for this season, but
I did too.
that seems to be contradicted on the regular, I guess. So, of the players listed right there, who do you think is most important to their overall team?
Well, if he was playing better, it'd be Anthony Davis. But to me, it's Steph Curry. All right, like we saw what happened to the Warriors when he went down in that Boston game. Like Boston just that's another reason why they won 23 out of 27. They caught in a few lucky breaks in there. That was one of them. Like Steph Curry getting hurt, you ain't got to worry about that. But Steph Curry's presence on the court for the Warriors, even if he's horrible, right, which is rare, even if he's having an off game, you still got to keep in the back of your mind, like, yeah, he might be 2 for 12, but all it takes is him hitting two or three, and then
All you do is make one. Once you see one go in the basket, sometimes it's
yeah,
literally is all it takes.
like if Steph Curry's carving you up from the layup line and the free throw line, that's fine, right? Like I will take that. If them like I just can't have him hitting like he's 2 for 12 from three. That's what I meant when I said 2 for 12. He's 2 for 12 from the three. All right. All he again to your point, all he has to do is see one or two go in, and it's like, oh, here come the floodgates. But yeah,
that's how it is for most people that shoot basketball. Like if you see one or two go in a row, you usually start to cook up. Like the basket gets bigger, the rim gets bigger, the basketball feels lighter. Like you can literally feel like you can shoot from anywhere. All you gotta do is make one or two in a row.
yeah, it's to me it's tough because him being out means thrusting other guys into way more significant roles than they're capable of carrying on. Like Jordan Poole was fantastic in that game against Miami with no Steph, no Draymond, and I don't even think Clay played in that game either. And he goes for 30 points, he hits 7 threes, and he has 9 assists. All right, that's fine for one game. Can you do that in a 7 game series? The answer is no. You can't count on Jordan Poole for 30 points in a 7 game series every game.
No, sure not.
No, you can't do it. And it's also kind of like the thing with Klay Thompson, like that's showing his leg, like that's showing his face too. His legs aren't where they need to be. His legs are gone. Right, like the more the season has progressed, the more Steve Kerr has played him more minutes. Like you can see it, especially late in games and close games. Like his legs ain't there half the time. Right. So for me, it's Steph Curry because he is the Golden State Warriors. Like that's me.
I will take Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons, if he can come back and be Ben Simmons, I don't disagree with the Steph Curry thing. You took mine, so I'm gonna roll with somebody else. I also agree with you. It would be Anthony Davis if he was playing better before he got injured, anyways. But he wasn't particularly. He hasn't been aggressive at all this season. Kind of like he's going through emotions. I don't really understand that at all. But it's Ben Simmons. So if Ben Simmons can come back and be Ben Simmons, the playmaking big, defend 1 through 5, that takes pressure off of Kevin Durant to guard the best player on the opposing team. Takes pressure off of Kyrie Irving to play defense at all. Ben Simmons they traded for Ben Simmons because he gives them something they don't already have on the roster. They traded away James Harden because he's a little bit redundant. They have guys that can facilitate. They have guys that can shoot the basket. They didn't really have a guy that has Ben Simmons' skill set. A guy who can facilitate, score at the rim, who can defend. And if he doesn't come back, I think they'll still be okay, at least for a couple rounds. But if they want to go where they really ultimately want to go to host the NBA championship, they're going to need Ben Simmons back. I will also say I think I also think Steph Curry. I think if they don't have him, I think they'll get to the first round depending on the matchup. But not having Steph Curry for like even one extra round, I think.
I'm gonna also go Lonzo Ball. Like while Lonzo's scoring has significantly improved from what he was when he first came to the league, from his shooting form to him just being able to shoot altogether, his facilitating and his defense is sorely missed by a Bulls team that's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it's true.
And
that game last time was ugly.
Yeah, it had no business getting ugly. Like you can't give up 40 points in the fourth quarter to a team that you should have blew out by 40. Let's be honest.
I mean, they no Zion, no Brandon Ingram. There's no reason the Bulls lose that game or should lose that
game. And they did. Like I got into it with my cousin last night because he's like, Zach LaVine wants max money. Like what? Like you? I'm like, bro, he did his part.
I mean, he
The
had
guy,
40 points in the game, basically.
the guy
I mean, he
had
had
40
39. But,
points. He had
I mean,
39 points.
Vucevic was not good at all last night. He had
Like you
really
need,
mental lapses on defense, and he basically got destroyed by Jonas Valanciunas, which should never happen.
like the guy
Valanciunas is a
has
good player, but like for him to get like 20 rebounds in that game, that's absurd.
yeah. You he has 20. That means you 19 rebounds. And you should have 17. Like you should match him board for board. Like you should be able to match him board for board. And he's like, what's Shannon Sharp be saying about games like that? That's empty case. I'm like, he says that about everybody not named LeBron James. So I'm disqualifying Shannon Sharp from any basketball talk ever. Because if you name LeBron James, he really don't give a damn. But
I mean, and
so
Devontae
yeah,
Graham went off. You never expect Devontae Graham to put in 30 points. I know he's capable of scoring, but you don't expect when you go up against the Pelicans, Devontae Graham's going to score this.
like it's it is like it is what it is at this point. Like if the Bulls want to be a legitimate playoff team, first off, let's just like I need all Bulls fans everywhere. If like yeah, we're all frustrated, right? We shouldn't be losing the games, some of the games that we lose, that we've lost. But also remember where the hell we came from. Like remember where we're coming from. This is our first guaranteed winning season in 7 years.
So yeah, the Bulls over a 4-year span up to this had the worst record.
All right, one more time. Repeat that.
Over a 4-year span coming,
4 year span.
the Bulls had the worst record over 4
That's
years.
and that's a worse record in a league that has had the Minnesota Timberwolves be a bottom feeder.
I mean, they
The
had
Detroit
this is the NBA that's had Sacramento not even sniff a playoff spot since for over a decade.
the Detroit Pistons,
I
right?
mean,
Same.
but Detroit was carried a little bit by the Blake Griffin, that made the playoffs and had a record there for a little while. They've only really stunk for the last 2 years.
Hey, and before he got there, like Phoenix used to be a bottom barrel, like a bottom feeder of the NBA. Like Phoenix was gonna be, you could pencil Phoenix in for 20 wins, and that was it. Right? Bulls fans, shut the hell up and remember where you came from.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that's going to be built in free agency because they don't have their own draft pick this year. But I mean, the both teams they're still a piece away. I still think that they're a year away from really being competitive. I mean, Patrick Williams being back now is fine. The Lonzo Ball injury actually is super concerned. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't play.
I wouldn't be
Like
either.
like the fact that his rehab isn't going particularly well. Like I guess he's not
Yeah,
responding to treatment.
yeah. He had
Weird.
like it was a couple days ago. Like they announced that he had a setback. So to the point where like they're not having him run,
Yeah, it's not ideal.
and they said they was gonna keep him at the time. They said they're not gonna have him run for 10 days. So he maybe has like another week of that kind of rest left. But if I'm if obviously if I'm Billy Donovan, I want the guy here. He wants to be here, right? It's not like Lonzo is just milking this thing. Like the player in this situation, in all these situations, they're frustrated too, right? So we as fans, like we have to remember that these are more than just players. Like they're people, and this is their livelihood. This is how they make money. This is how they provide for their families. And if they can't do that, and if we're frustrated, how the hell do you think they feel? How the hell do you think that Anthony Davis feels, knowing that there's responsibility to him, asked of him, and he's not there to fulfill it? Like that's frustrating as hell.
I
To
agree with
every
you. I mean, injured players never want to stay in. They want to be on the basketball court. They want to do what they
like,
love. Um,
especially a guy like Anthony Davis, like you work your ass off. Well, we think you work your ass off so hard to come back from injuries, and then you play a few games, and then all of a sudden you're back injured. Like Jared Allen on for the Cavs is not him. His absence is not being talked about enough because that shot blocking ability is gone. Like Evan Mobley's nice. He can block shots, but he ain't Jared Allen.
No, no. There's not a lot of players.
Like Larry Markkinen, yeah, he's 7 foot tall, but Larry Markkinen has never really been classified as a defender.
I think you're being generous. So moving on from that, let's go to something, nothing, everything. First one. Dust up between Jimmy Butler, Eric Spoelstra, and Udonis Haslem after their loss the other night. Something, nothing, or everything. So yeah, got Jimmy Butler, Udonis Haslem. After they lost to the Warriors, there was a bit of a dust up when it comes to Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem, and going along with Eric Spoelstra as well. Something, nothing, or everything.
It's something because it's somebody brought up like Jimmy Butler's shelf life in certain NBA with the teams he's played on. Like it starts off really, 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 really good, and then all of a sudden he burns everybody else out, and then he gets shipped off. Except Philly, I don't really think that happened in Philly. I just think that was more of a money thing where Miami.
I think he wanted to.
Yeah, I think he wanted to stay in Philly, but they just couldn't afford to keep him. Like Chicago, right? We remember the rift that happened between him, Rondo and Wade.
Yeah,
like that team.
And I mean, him and the Derrick Rose situation too wasn't ideal. Like I don't know if that was cooked up more by the media than it was actually.
That was more media and fan created. Like Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler have constantly said that whoever asks them about it, they love each other. Like they have no beef whatsoever. Right? Like that was a media created frenzy because Jimmy Butler was playing and he was emerging, and Derrick Rose was dealing with the injuries that he had to deal with during that stretch. But nonetheless, he gets into it with Rondo and Dwayne Wade because Dwayne Wade and Rondo, them being veteran players, like they're wanting more out of the young players, and the young players aren't able to give it to him. And Jimmy Butler's sticking up for him, and we already know how that goes, right? Well, we already know how the rest of the season went. They made the playoffs.
I think actually Rondo was the one who was sticking up. I think
I take that back. Yeah, it's the other way around. Rondo was sticking up for the young guys, and Jimmy.
I think Wade and Jimmy Butler were coming after them, and Rondo.
Yeah. That's my bad. But they made the playoffs, which was the last time the Bulls made the playoffs. Rondo we go up 2-0 on Boston. Rondo breaks his hands. We take both games in Boston, and then we lose 4 straight because Rondo breaks his hand. We
win that series.
Yeah,
but then anyway, I mean, in Minnesota, the first season in Minnesota went pretty well, and then he kind of had a falling out with Tom Thibodeau and with Karl-Anthony Towns, with like that whole everyone on that team.
And Andrew Wiggins. So yeah, so like now, like he was the Rondo, like he's still saying that same thing. Like you got these young stars, bigger stars, and Andrew Wiggins and Cat, and he's like, why the hell y'all coddling them? Like, no, demand the best out of them. And we're too good. Like those guys are too good for us to be a bottom of the way, like AC. Like those guys are too good to be in the AC. Like we should be at 4 or 5, something. That's all Jimmy Butler was trying to say. And he gets traded to Philly. Again, I don't think he wore out his welcome or burnt everybody out in Philly. I legitimately think like that was a money issue, and Miami had the money to pay him, and Philly didn't. Now he's in Miami. Now you start like it's the same thing. You go to a finals. Like you go to a finals. I think you had another playoff run after.
Then you get bounced the first round the year after that.
Right. So you get busted. So yeah, now it's like you're starting to see that. Like they brought up Jimmy Butler's like short shelf life. Like he tends to burn himself and those around him out. It's something because.
Also, his shooting percentage, especially from the 3-point line right now, is like under 20%.
And it's
for the month of March.
And there's some frustrating losses in there. Like you lost to the 76ers with no Embiid,
no Harden or Embiid. Yeah, you should win that. And you're letting your lead slip away. I mean, Boston's only a game and a half back now. I think this is for sure something. I think you hit the nail right there. Jimmy Butler's shelf life in various cities that he's played in over his career has been short. It's usually right about now. Like we're playing with the teammates and the coaching staff and the front office getting a little bit tired of Jimmy Butler. And I wouldn't be shocked if Miami doesn't have a long lengthy playoff run this season if they're looking to shop it.
And you also got to
Moving
keep in
on
mind,
from
like, you also got to keep real quick, like, they're one of the older teams. Like, Kyle Lowry is, in terms of NBA, Kyle Lowry's old. Same with
yeah,
PJ Tucker. Like, you're asking a lot from, and same thing with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has a lot of minutes on those legs. A lot of minutes on those
a lot of
legs.
important to him. He's played a
A
ton of
lot of
playoff minutes.
important minutes, too.
Moving on to the next one, we got Chris Paul returns to the Suns lineup after a 15-game absence and leads them. Like I guess it technically helps lead them to a victory to clinch everything, all of the best record in the NBA, along with the division and the Western Conference and the best record in the NBA. He chips in 29 minutes, 17 points, 13 assists, a steal, and a block. Something, nothing, everything. Booker's popped in 49. So
I mean, it's more so along the questions of,
they're the best road team, right? At best road record, 30-6.
yeah, they're like 30 and what are they, 30-6 on the
Yeah,
road.
on the road. Yeah.
It's more along the questions of Devin Booker did what no one thought he could do. Right, the whole like that was the main question, right? Can Devin Booker lead the charge while Chris Paul was out because of the history that comes with the Phoenix Suns and it just being a Devin Booker led team?
I think he rose to the
He
challenge. I mean, 8-1
he
over
absolutely
the last
did.
9 games. I mean, Devin Booker's been awesome. And he probably is getting enough buzz for him.
He absolutely rose to the challenge. But him being back, Chris Paul being back like that, that takes that load off of Devin Booker when actually it should be the other way around. Like Chris Paul, like Devin Booker, I think like he should really be the main one doing more facilitating and Chris Paul play off ball because
I
at
agree with
some
you.
point you already like Chris Paul ain't gonna play this thing forever.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. This is something. I think having Chris Paul back in the mix with the Phoenix Suns is big. Moving on from this, we got Grizzlies John Morant expected to miss at least 2 weeks with right knee soreness. He's going to be reevaluated right before the playoffs. Something, nothing, everything.
That's everything. Like it's a nice story now, right? They're 15-2 without him because the opponent is a revolving door. Like every night is somebody different. If this happened in the playoffs and John Morant ain't there, and they could really and teams really can dissect and zero in on what you do good and take away certain key players like they strong suits, yeah, they going home, right? Because they're a young team. They don't have a lot of playoff experience on their bench, right? This is where
Like,
the like this is where it gets nitty and gritty and ugly, right? Like you think it's hard to play in Memphis right now, like with when it's a constant, it's a different opponent every night. Imagine going to Denver and they can dissect what you can do. Imagine going to Phoenix for 7 games, Golden State for 7 games. Like it gets loud in Memphis, no doubt. But without your best player, you ain't beating them in 7 games.
yeah, this is everything. Memphis goes as John Morant carries them. If he's unable to come back first round of the playoffs, their matchup right now would be whoever wins the play-in game of Minnesota and the Clippers. If they don't have Morant, they have to take on Minnesota. I could see a scenario where
They that's ugly.
that's everything. It's everything. I mean, imagine having a 61 win season. The best record you guys have had in a long time. A 50-win season of a team a season where you guys thought you could be a play-in team. For you to rise up to the occasion for 50 games, get bounced in the first round because John Morant got hurt, that would suck. That's everything.
That would suck. That's
It would
everything.
really suck. Moving on, I just put this one in here because I just think it's funny how life works out sometimes.
Yeah.
The Sacramento Kings, so Sabonis is going to miss the next 10 days. something, nothing, or everything.
What?
So he didn't have any
Okay.
structure damage. He didn't have no structure damage on the knee, so bonus was mostly fine. But this was supposed to be the piece you brought in to make a playoff push. What's happened, Sacramento? Where's your playoff push? Trade away Tyrese Halliburton, baby. Come on. This is
Okay.
nothing. I'm just being an ass. Literally nothing. But Sacramento,
Okay.
come on.
I thought you were gonna bring up the game where Tyrese Halliburton had like what was it, like 15 assists and no turnovers in his
Oh no,
first game
I
against.
wasn't, but I was talking about Sabonis getting hurt and missing
Okay.
like 10 games. But
Well, again, like Sabonis getting hurt, like it's nothing. It's nothing right now because they're not legitimate contenders, right? Like I legit harping. And it's funny I say this because it's the 1 year anniversary of Vooch being traded to Chicago.
what, really?
Yeah, today, March 25th. Like today's the 1 year anniversary of Vooch being traded to Chicago.
I guess I kind of forget how like the season started late last season.
Yeah.
All those deadlines got pushed.
But if you're the Sacramento Kings, like I say, this was a move made for next year, right? You get
I
five.
totally disagree. I think they made the bonus trade to make the playoffs.
I don't know. I don't. A lot would have had to go right for them to make that push. Again, I'm thinking this
I
is a
mean,
move
they
made.
weren't that far outside the playoff. They've just
Did
stunk.
you really, even with them making the trade, did you really expect them to make a push? I did.
No. That's why the trade
Okay
made no
then.
sense when they made it. That's why the trade made zero sense when they made it in the first place. Like you're gonna
Me
make
okay.
you're trading for Sabonis, who's only under contract for this season and the next season and the one after that, and then he can just walk. When you have Tyrese Halliburton, you can lock him up 5 seasons after his rookie contract signs up. You had him for like 7 more seasons. This trade makes no sense, but it's nothing. I'm just being kind of an ass when it's going to bring up second.
I know you. I know.
This
Like
this
again, the
this trade.
trade. The trade to me. The trade to me was a focus on next year. Like I'm gonna get him and Fox for a 482 the next season. Yeah, like that's what that trade told me. Like, come on.
Moving on to we got 2 more. 2 players fined for incidents with referees within 1 week of each other. Actually, they happened on the same day. Julius Randle fined $40,000 for directing hostile language towards game officials. This happened on March 20th against the Jazz. Draymond Green fined $25K for directing profane language towards an official. Something, nothing, or everything.
uh, how you feel about it?
This is certainly something because, especially on the Draymond Green, because it's just like he's like kind of a hothead as it is, and like if he can get fined if he gets technical fouls in the playoffs because referees are, I think this is definitely something I know that referees make mistakes. I know you constantly hound on referees about their ability to officiate games, the discrepancy between calls, especially when it comes to the Bulls and whoever they're having playing at that particular night. And
Mm-hmm.
they have a hard job. They should have to deal with players, verbally assaulting them personally, as opposed to like. So yeah, I think it's something. Referees catch a lot of
Yeah.
flack in the NBA for sure.
Referees do catch a lot of flack because you're asking them to be perfect in an imperfect game, and sometimes the flack is warranted. Sometimes it isn't. Do players overreact to a bunch of stuff? Absolutely. If some of that, if again, sometimes that overreaction warranted, yes, it is. But you harping all the time on how the NBA. What's the one thing you want NBA the NBA to stop doing? Stop releasing what?
Oh, the 2-minute report.
The last 2 minute report, right?
Yeah.
The last 2 minute report literally shows where refs messed up or where they think they messed up. Where the NBA throws himself into a conundrum is sometimes they announce that they were wrong, the refs were wrong, but more often than not, they back them up. Right? You have a rule book for a reason. It's not meant to be interpreted differently from referee to referee. The rule book is the rule book for a reason. Call it how it is in the rule book. Like don't have it differentiate between this ref and this ref. But between these two players, Draymond, yeah, you know better. You know better, right? You already know, like you already have a rep about yourself. You know that when you get to the playoffs, right, especially in a deep playoff run, you can literally make the argument that you cost your team the most impressive season ever because
Yeah.
you couldn't contain yourself, and a lot of people say LeBron goes him into that tech, but it is what it is. Like basically, like the NBA gave the Cavs a stimulus package because they suspended you for a fifth game, and you would have won that game hands down. Julius Randle, the writing is on the wall, bruh. Why, like you gonna be out of New York? If not next season, the season after that,
I'm not
right?
so sure. I think that contract's going to be nearly impossible to trade. But I could be wrong.
It,
I
it
have been wrong before. But that contract looks bad.
like
Like it's
it's I don't even know. I kind of saw why Draymond got into it. Like why did I Julius Randle, he made contact with the ref, right? Like he touched the ref.
no. That's not this. That's not this game. That was against the Suns.
Okay.
Remember? I think he did
Yeah,
get fined for
yeah.
that too. But this is against the game against Utah.
Okay, so he didn't touch the ref in
Actually,
that game against you.
this Julius Randle contract is actually they could move it. He's making 23 million next year. He's making 25 year after that, 27 million after that, and then 29 player options after that. It could be moved. Actually, it's not as bad as I thought. So
Like
you know,
and which is why the incident against Utah made no sense. Like, bro, the game's over. Game's over. Couple more bounces of the ball, go to the line, and you want to get into a Rudy Gobert over what? Him grabbing your arm? Like, what is the issue here? So what did he do that game? To the like what Julius Randle? What did he do?
once so yeah, they've lost. The Knicks lost 108 to 93. This is on March 20th. I'll go ahead and pull up the stat line. Yeah, but in my opinion, I think this is certainly something. I think the referees are just kind of always kind of the targets. A lot of player and fan frustration. Things don't go their way. I think this is just a micro, especially in the Julius Randle. There's been a few games where he's gotten into it with referees. This is a microcosm of the Knicks.
Like we talk like that game against Phoenix, right? Even if he didn't get
Utah,
ejected,
he shot it at 30%, 29% from the field, 17% from the 3-point line. He played 35 minutes. He had 13 points and 11 rebounds.
so like what did he do? Like what was he fined for?
So he was fined. So it doesn't give me the exact. It says when it happened. Hostile language towards the.
So it's like I'm pretty like in that situation, I don't even think he probably wasn't even talking to the ref. He's literally probably shouting at
Right.
whatever he was saying at Rudy
No, he
Gobert.
said directing hostile language towards the. Exactly. Fine. So he was absolutely talking
He's talking who? You cut
to.
out.
He was talking to a referee. Moving on to the very last one. This one is a little bit more of a lighter one. Jamal Crawford, after 20 years in the NBA, formally announced his retirement on March 21st. We have not had a show since Jamal Crawford announced his retirement, at least not an NBA show. The three-time Sixth Man of the Year award winner, 20-year NBA veteran, played on 9 teams, 20 coaches. He took to Twitter, said goodbye to the game, all the spoils, the adrenaline rush. Thank you, basketball. I owe you everything. Jay Crossover finally hanging up his cleats. I kind of thought he'd be one of those guys that plays until forever. He won the 2018-2019 Teammate of the Year award. He retires with 19,000 points and breaks first all-time history. The legendary again. 42 years old. Jamal Crawford hanging up something, nothing, everything.
It's something like he's one of those players. Like his handles, or he's gonna go down as one of the best dribblers ever. Like his crossovers were crazy. Like he was a part of that Lob City era that literally electrified not just LA but the whole NBA. And he was one of those. He's one of those dudes that you wish he had a ring, because Jamal Crawford was he was Showtime. He found a niche that really allowed him to stay in the NBA. Like again, you said it, 3 time six man of the year, and it really started in Atlanta. Like when Atlanta moved him to the bench and he spark plugged their second unit. That's the role that was made for Jamal Crawford. He to this day he feels like he can play in the NBA, which you're supposed to feel like that. And the last 2 years it was a lot because I'm on Twitter. The last 2 years it was, man, why ain't Jamal Crawford on the team? Da 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 da. And he would answer those questions like a lot of like most people would say it's because I'm 40, like I'm old. I'm old. But like the
This is
last
this is certainly
go
something.
ahead.
I mean, we're only like 2 seasons removed from him scoring 51 points in a game. He's the oldest player to ever score 50 plus points in an NBA game. Jamal Crawford, yeah, he's going to go down one of those guys, legendary ball handler, legendary playmaker. Yeah, you do wish he had a ring. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I wouldn't be shocked if they eventually renamed the Six Man of the Year award as Jamal Crawford Six Man of the Year award because he really embodied what it meant to be a
Like
on an NBA.
and it's he's gonna be in that conversation like who's the GOAT six man of like who's the GOAT greatest six man ever, like him, Manu, Lou Williams, and so on and so forth. Like you can literally make the argument that Manu could have started for those
I
Greg
mean, he
Pop
sure could have, but
champions.
he understood that off the bench was more important. I mean, he only won the one Six Man of the Year award. That's because Jamal Crawford was dominating the award
Wait,
here.
Manu only won one six man
Yeah,
of the year. Oh wow, I thought he had more than that.
he's only got the one. Lou Williams has more than that. I think Lou Williams has got three.
Yeah,
At
him and
least
Crawford have like three apiece. So we might see something where like they do like a hybrid, like a Crawford Williams, until somebody else wins it 3 times in a row, like 3 times
yeah,
all
Williams has
together.
got three too. I mean, they may
But
not, but at least Jamal Crawford was the embodiment of what it meant. He was the guy coming off your bench, giving you a spark plug off your bench, and the NBA is a little bit worse without him. I'll say this is something. It's sad to see him go.
you ever see like have you ever heard him talk?
Yes, I have. His voice is super
Like
deep.
right. Don't even be like, hey, like your body type don't match
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
match
yeah.
your voice.
Yeah. It's kind of like whenever I watched that Rick Astley video. I'm like, man, you don't look like you sound like. Never gonna give you up. If you ever get Rick rolled before, when you hear Rick Astley talk, like sing that song, it's like no, like that doesn't sound like what you should sound like. I still to this
No,
day think he lip sync that song. Nobody else. There's no way he sounds like that. But yeah, that's been the
but yeah,
crossover. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been David Huppin right there. This is TJ Hopkins. TJ, what do we do here at the prom, my friend?
we bring the
Yes, sir, man. And I will see you on Monday. You enjoy your weekend. We're going to be doing some more NFL stuff next week. Also, more crossover. Get it. So I will see you next week, man. You have a good weekend.
you too, brother.
Peace out, brother.